Welcome back and thanks for tuning in. Today is part 3 of our series on facing judgment. We, as parents of autistic children, face a lot of judgment. So in part 1, we talked about why it happens and why it hurts. In part 2, we talked about how to respond to critics. And today in part 3, we're going to talk about how to set boundaries, how to deal with our own self-doubt, and how to identify our own values. Before we jump in, if you're new here, I'm Andrea Pollack. I'm a parenting educator and coach for parents of autistic and neurodiverse children. All right, let's get started. Today we're talking about setting boundaries with our critics. Now, of course, it matters which category of critics we're talking about, right? It's different to set boundaries with family than it might be to set boundaries with teachers or professionals or strangers. So let's get started with talking about family. Of course, it's emotionally difficult to set boundaries with family, especially if we value their opinion. These are people who've raised us, whose approval we've always sought, and we don't want to break any bonds or disappoint anyone or make them feel let down. So I want you to think about it in a new way. I want you to reframe how you think about boundaries, to think about it as you're not rejecting family, but you are protecting your child's needs. You're not rejecting family support, but you're redirecting that support into a way that's helpful rather than harmful. So remember that advice from family members is usually coming from a place of love. They want to help. They want to see a good outcome for you and for your child. But you know that your child may have some needs that they just can't appreciate. And so that's where the boundaries come in. It's not about being confrontational. It's about protecting the child's well-being. So first, you want to acknowledge the family member's concern and care about your child's well-being. And so it helps diffuse the tension and prevents family from feeling dismissed. But you also want to express a certain certainty that you have in your decisions. So you might say something like this: I appreciate how much you care about my child, and I know you're offering this advice because you want to do what's best for him. But we've decided to follow this particular approach because it's been the one that works best right now for our family. That's one example. This script validates the family member's concern, and it shows that you respect their input, but also firmly establishes that you're confident in your own parenting choices. If you're speaking with somebody who's raised children, you might want to validate their experience and also express that you are raising a child who has unique needs. So that might sound something like this: I know it worked for you when you were raising us, and I respect your experience, but I'm in a different situation with child's name, and their needs require a different approach. I hope you can understand and support that. What I love about that approach is that you're showing respect for their parenting knowledge, but you're also reminding them that your child's situation is different. In addition, when you say something like, I hope you can support that, it does suggest a certainty in your parenting, and it also suggests a certain boundary, like I don't actually need those particular kinds of inputs. So here I'm going to offer you all different kinds of scripts, and you can take bits and pieces from each one, whatever works for you. But different people are in different situations, so I want to offer a variety of perspectives. So another option is to redirect the conversation from judgment or disagreement to support. So it helps family members feel involved without undermining your decisions. So that script might look something like this: I understand we don't see eye to eye on this, but right now what I really need from you is support. Can you help me by focusing on Johnny, we'll use that as a name, by focusing on Johnny's progress and how far they've come, right? So you're really asking for what you need, which is support. By shifting the conversation to a request for support, you help the family members feel useful without letting them dominate or criticize your decisions. And it allows for a certain positive conversation while maintaining your boundary. It's also okay to point out that someone's words or comments are making you second guess yourself, and you can say to them directly, I know you're trying to help, I know you're coming from a place of love, but this is making me second guess myself and undermine my confidence, and that's not helpful. Can we please focus on what's positive, on what's working? Let's move on to responding to teachers or therapists who might be offering advice that feels or seems critical to you. You do want to express respect for their opinion if you're going to continue to use them as your therapist, or if your child has more time that year in that teacher's class, because you want to you want to maintain a good relationship. But you also want to set a slight boundary that says, I also know what I'm talking about. So here are a few ideas of what that might look like. First, you could say something like, I understand your concern, We've spoken with our child's therapist or teacher, who, depending on who you're speaking with, and we're sticking with this approach. We've seen progress and we'll continue to monitor it, and we'll keep you posted. So you're bringing in that this professional is not the only professional in the picture, right? You've spoken with others, and you are also saying, I'm going to stick with this. We've seen progress, but we're also staying open to other ideas. Another approach might be, we value your input, but as the parent, I see things at home that also guide my decisions. So let's keep an open dialogue. Again, you're showing respect for what they're saying because you're open to taking in comments in the future, but you're also sharing with them that you have a somewhat different perspective, and that's important for them to know too. A third might be, I appreciate your professional advice and I'll share it with the rest of our team. So I like that one because it's not pushing back at all. You're saying thank you for the advice and I'll share it. You're not saying I'll do it. You're saying I'll share it. And then after that, you do whatever you want with it. But it's a nice way to sort of say thank you and, to be seen, to be decided whether we'll use it. And here's a quick moment on responding to strangers in public. This is as much about just responding as it is about boundary setting, because you may never see them again. But something simple like, my child is doing the best they can, just like everyone else. Thanks for your understanding. Or, we're handling the situation, there's no need for concern. It's simple, it's straightforward. It says, I've got this, and you can butt out. So let's talk about what happens back to family if a family member pushes back and they continue to offer you advice despite the fact that you've set a pretty clear boundary. Here's a way to gently but also firmly remind them of that boundary. You might say something like, I know this is hard, but we've already made this decision and I need you to respect it. We're doing what we believe is best for Johnny, and I really appreciate your understanding. And what you're doing here is you're being compassionate yet assertive. You're shifting the focus to your child's well-being, right? It's not about them versus you. It's about this is what's best for the child. So let's turn to dealing with self-doubt and guilt. When we receive a lot of critical input and judgment, of course we feel self-doubt, right? And we also sometimes feel guilt that we're not doing enough, or guilt that we're setting a boundary with family. So there's a lot of opportunities here to feel bad. Are you sure that's the best way to handle it? Oh, my friend's son, they did this with him and that worked. Or, oh, I read that, autistic children should be able to do XYZ by this time. Or, if you always let him get away with it. Those are the kinds of things that undermine our confidence. So how can we combat that self-doubt? Well, the antidote is to build your parenting confidence. That's the answer. How do you do that? Well, first, it's important to stay open to learning new things. So we're always learning new ways of helping our children. But another really important thing to combat the self-doubt and to build your parenting confidence is to focus on the wins, right? We talked about how our brains are wired to be negative, the negativity bias. So I want you to look every day for at least one win, one thing that went right. And if you look for it, you will find it. You can decide you want to look for 5 and make a list of those 5. It could be something like, my child didn't fuss when I asked them to get off of electronics. Or, I stayed calm when I saw that my teenager left their dishes in the sink again. Whatever it is, it's important to celebrate, to build that muscle, to counteract the negativity bias that builds the self-doubt. So you can ask yourself, what's one positive outcome I can focus on today? And one other note on building confidence. I want you to think about the fact that you're building your parenting confidence based on your parenting values. When someone is criticizing you, they're criticizing you based on their parenting values. Let me give you an example. Your parenting values, because of your child's needs, might be, I really prioritize helping them manage their sensory overload. Or I'm really concerned about their emotional growth. I want to support that. That's a priority. Or I want them to build confidence. That's a priority. Somebody's criticism might be on your child didn't, perform well on a math test because their value is performing on tests. So by defining your own values, you can see them as a guide to restore your confidence in your decisions because they're based on your values. I hope you found this helpful and feel like you have some guidance on how to handle criticism moving forward. In case you missed the first 2 videos, I'll link those below so you can see all the things we discussed about facing judgment. Till next time, I hope you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.